Okay, and
thank you, Celia, for sharing some information with us that could be beneficial to other parents with children and young adults with an MPN. Celia, when did you become involved with myeloproliferative neoplasms?
Well, my daughter was diagnosed in 1999 when she was 16. I think that was 22 years ago. So that was when I first learned about these disorders, and I had to educate myself on what they were.
Right. And I know since then you have done a tremendous job in not only advocating for her, but also on behalf of other patients with ET. What was the group you started?
I founded my nonprofit. It was called Friends of ET Research, and I formed this nonprofit specifically to give our daughter Stephanie hope and encouragement, because she was very depressed that these disorders were rare and not really cared much about in the scientific community.
I know that you raised a tremendous amount of money for MPN research, and would you mind sharing that, because it's commendable and it has made a difference?
I believe it has made a difference, and I was very happy to raise awareness about these disorders and to raise funds for research, which was so important 22 years ago. And I began raising money in the year 2000, and since that time we've raised $750,000.
Bravo, that's amazing.
It is.
Last question.
Okay.
So here we are in 2018.
Yes.
And your daughter, who is a young adult with 2 children and married, and she's a nurse.
Yes.
And what transpired in the last year that has changed things for you now?
Well, she had a serious event where she suffered blood clots in both lungs. That kind of indicated to us that her form of ET had transformed into maybe a little more stubborn, a little more symptomatic, but she's recovered and is doing well now, and we're just very happy that she's doing well.
Yeah, and I do know that, and we will hear your story from the event, but I do know that she was pretty much in remission. Was that for 10 years?
She was in remission, almost unheard of. Yes, she was in remission for practically 10 years. We were very grateful and blessed that she got a break from it, and then it did come roaring back, unfortunately. I don't know where it went in those 10 years, but she got a break from medication and was able to accomplish a lot in her life during that time frame.
Yes. What would you impart, what wisdom would you impart to other parents of MPN patients?
The biggest wisdom I would share with them would be to educate yourself. There's a lot of information on the internet. Some of it's erroneous, some of it's scary, but you can weed that out and find the best MPN specialist that you can, even if that means you have to travel. It's worth it to have your case seen by someone who's an expert.
How did you take care of yourself?
Oh, I don't think I did. I don't remember.
That's interesting.
Meditation, but yes, the caregivers have to take care of themselves too.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm so glad you were with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. This was wonderful.
You're staying there?
Yeah.
You seem further away.
Well, it's going to be a 2-shot.
I'm glad, but he always gets my nose.
Remember, that's going to be shot from over there. That you're welcome afterwards. I'm a little tricky.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right, rolling.
Sarah, thank you for being with us today, and I'm so glad that you were at the event, and so glad that you were able to share your story. Can you tell us, when was the first time you heard about an MPN?
6 o'clock on a Friday night in December, when my son's doctor called and let us know that he had something called essential thrombocythemia. And I remember thinking, spell that for me. I don't even know how to spell that, much less do anything else with it. And then my second thought was, I'm not going to Google this because I don't want to know.
Okay.
And then later on, once we were sent to a doctor, I think we found out more about it. But even the doctor didn't know at that point. And this is the part where I'm going to say thank you for your site, because once we had the final diagnosis and we had the first JAK2, we heard about JAK2 for the very first time, I got in the car and I did Google for the very first time I Googled. And your site came up. And so I had sat with this pediatrician doctor, this pediatrician hematologist, and I had asked her, does stomach aches, nausea, leg pain, fatigue, are these all symptoms of this disease? And she said no. And so I got in the car, we were driving home, my husband and I, it was Valentine's Day, 2017, and I Googled. And I remember taking a big breath before I did it. Everybody says don't do Google MD, but I did. And your site came up. And you don't even know, you didn't know I was going to even bring this up.
No,
so,
I didn't.
And I was able to click on symptoms. And the symptoms popped up, and there it was, nausea, leg pain. And I remember thinking, that was the very first time I thought, we need to find another doctor. And I thought, we have some answers. And so from there, I started doing additional reading, and I discovered right-click. So if you're reading a white paper and you don't understand what a term is, you can highlight it and you can right-click and it'll say search Google or search Bing or search whatever search engine you have on your computer, and it'll bring you up the definition of what that word was. So then that's how I started to read white papers. Is I'd read through them. If I didn't understand a word, I'd right-click, I'd look it up. Okay, then I'd read the next section. So really, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We had heard about, we were starting to get more calls, as I said, about children and young adults. What fascinates me about you, in particular, is that you have no fear for the sake of your child, and I think it's an important quality and characteristic to have during this time, to going after the correct information and changing things if they're not right for him. So tell me about the day that you made the decision with your son not to use one of the medications, because I thought that was very intriguing at your presentation.
So we had gone to see Dr. Verstofik at MD Anderson, and he had done some research for JAK2 mutation. So this is where things get a little bit different when you have ET or PV, is you have different mutations underneath it. And with the JAK2 mutation, which my son has, there is the potential for remission using Pegasus interferon. And my husband and I had done a lot of research, and we decided to switch him. And there's a lot of work you have to go through with insurance companies, so if anybody's thinking about that, I want them to be aware of that beforehand. I wasn't. It was shocking to me, and it was a little bit frustrating. And from there, we were finally able to get the medicine, and we were told to do, is it okay for me to use the names of the medicines?
Yes, you switched him from hydroxyurea, correct?
We switched him from hydroxyurea to Pegasus interferon. The protocol is to use hydroxyurea for 2 weeks while you go switch to the Pegasus interferon. The purpose and the reasoning for that is that Pegasus interferon can take up to 3 to 4 months to work. So what does that mean? That means that more than likely your platelets will creep up in that first 3 to 4 months. By overlapping it, the goal is that the hydroxyurea stays in your blood system a little bit longer to try and maintain the lower platelet count. So in the last half of that 3 to 4 month period, you're starting at a lower number, so it's not going to increase. So we went that first week. Hydroxyurea had made my son ill. So every morning he was waking up sick to his stomach. He was just not feeling well, very tired. And after the first week, he just looked at us and he said, I'm not taking it. And one of the things I think that's frustrating for parents and for children, and I mentioned this in my presentation, was that the level of control and power you lose. And Ian has lost, sorry, let's not put his name in there. My son has lost so much of his control and his power in this disease. He's lost his ability to play sports because of the acquired von Willebrand's, which he has. and they thought he had a brain bleed, so we've already gone through the MRI once, but he's lost so much. And so being able to take some of that power and control back, my husband and I stepped away for a moment. We've learned not to have some of those discussions in front of him. Although he has been in every doctor's appointment, he's been through we let him stay through all of that, because eventually he is going to have to maintain his care. And we stepped away for a moment, and we just looked at each other and we said, we're going to let him decide. And so we came back and we said, is that what you want to do? Do you want to not take the medicine and just do the shot? And he said, I'm not taking it. And we said, okay. That's not a hill we're going to fight for. That's not something we're going to do. I will say, to get him to start taking the shot, we did bribe him. So originally when he started taking the shot, I gave him $5. He didn't want to do the shot, so for every 30 seconds it took him, so he'd say, okay, do it, and then go, no. Okay, do it, no. So for every 30 seconds that he delayed, I took out $1. So the first time I think he got a shot, he got $2. But the next time he did 4, and the time after that he got 5.
What a brilliant thing to do, though. That's great. So you're a wealth of information, and you are a very solid person, and
well,
I love the way you have dealt with your son on this. And so what would you impart to wisdom you would impart to other parents if you could say boom, boom, boom? What would those 3 most important things be to another parent that may be watching this?
Very first, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think I forgot that at the beginning when I ended up with pneumonia myself, because I was working during the day, reading all night, then getting up and working during the day. So it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. This isn't in 6 months your son is going to be better. This isn't you're going to find the cure on your own. I think as mothers, that's one of our #1 goals, is to find something to help our child. Sure. And as part of that, find the organizations like y'all's, the MPN organizations, and find those groups where there's information. I wish I would have done a better job of narrowing in my focus, if that makes sense.
It does.
The second thing is it's a team effort. You talk about me being smart about handling my son. That's my husband. A big part of that is my husband behind me, and us having those conversations. He can be a little bit more calm. He's an attorney, so he's a little bit more calm. He thinks things through. Originally, they wanted to put him on a much higher dose of hydroxyurea, and he insisted that we start out at a lower dose. So really being in that team, I think, is my #2 point. And part of that is, I think Sylvia talked about being a familial unit.
Absolutely.
Remembering that you are a familiar, that unit is important. So we have grandparents that are involved, my parents are involved, my father-in-law is involved, and my husband and I having those conversations, and also remembering that we do have a son. Another son, our firstborn is also part of our family, and he needs our attention as much as our youngest. So I think that would be my #2 point, is just keeping that family unit as strong as possible, and being on the same page. So my husband and I have an agreement that we don't move forward unless we're both on the same page.
That's great.
Because I think, and so my argument then is if I want to move forward on something, I need to outline it and define it for him, and he can do his own research and come back. So we don't necessarily have to make the decision in that moment, because let's make this decision and move on, and he's going research. Yes. So we make a good team that way. So being on the same page before we make a decision, I think, is huge. So making sure that those pieces stay into place, because if your family unit breaks apart, that's going to affect the child as much as the illness, right? So that's probably the #2 thing. And my #3 thing is develop your community. We both work full time. So if Ian's sick, my mom can sometimes go pick him up, or my father-in-law can go pick him up, or and keeping our oldest involved in some of the decisions too, so he's aware, because at some point in time my husband and I won't necessarily be around, but our oldest will be part of his support group, so keeping him involved in it as well. Sylvia, I think, talked about a 504, having that on file with the school. I don't think we talk enough about that in our community, but it is very important for our kids because they can have consequences at the school
Right.
if they're not aware of what's going on.
Right.
So that's part of that community as well.
That's such a great point, because adults with MPNs suffer, as I mentioned, you weren't in the adult session yesterday, but the fear of not getting a promotion, or the fear of telling people at work that they have something. So, you know, there's so many components to this. So in closing, this little exercise here, what would you say we need to do? We kind of know where we're going next, but what would you say we need to do as an MPN community and from an advocacy perspective? We know we want to bring this group together and tighten it up a little more, and we do have the support of the physicians. What do you want to happen going forward with your son's diagnosis and with this community?
We can all say cure, right?
Yes,
Number one
course.
is cure.
Sure.
So I'm going to set that one aside because I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yes.
I think the next piece of it is sharing of information. One of the things that my son learned very quickly is he could be sick, but not really be sick. So, you know, he learned to work the system a little bit. So I reached out to some other moms and I said, do y'all see this? And how are you handling that? And so there are times when he's gone to school and he has been sick, because to some extent I'm teaching him a lesson that when you are sick, you need to. So I think that having that community and being able to reach out to each other and ask different questions. I think having grandparents and outside community people we're part of some different Facebook groups is great. I think also though having other groups where we limit it to just guardians or parents would be very beneficial, just because I think sometimes you can get to more of a meat of a conversation, and I think people are much more likely to share if they know the people on the board, whereas now our Facebook group is getting so large, sometimes I don't want to say things because we don't even use my son's name.
Yes,
so
and you shouldn't probably.
Yeah, and we're very careful about what we share online. So I think having more of a closed group where we can share information, and just even today having Anne brought up the stomach issues.
Yes.
I think we can start to somewhat direct some of that research because they rely on us to provide that information. So I think that's it. I think the other thing is not being sidelined or being surprised. I think every single one of us, the night before, the 2 days before our child has a doctor's appointment, is terrified. We're up a lot of the night, we're worried about it. It doesn't matter how many times you've done it, because you don't know what could potentially come the next day.
Right.
So making us aware a little bit, and I know when I get my son's Pegasus interferon, it's literally 100 pages. This is all the stuff that you could look for, and don't give me the 100 pages, give me the 5 bullet points. This could cause a problem with his liver. When the doctor came to me and he said, his liver has gone from 20 to 80 to 218. I'm expecting to go up next time. That could mean he can't take Pegasus interferon anymore. That blindsided me.
That's right.
So now the next time he's got a doctor's appointment, I probably will for sure be up, right? Because I don't know what's coming in that next appointment.
Right.
So I think to some extent, and I don't want to say dumbing down, but I don't know how else to say it.
Well, just making it more succinct and something that is
layman's terms.
Less cumbersome for the parents, so you can, and in layman's terms.
Right.
So it's a very brief, in layman's terms, description of what could happen or what to look for, and not a 5-page. You know, I know why they do that, but
I'm my husband's an attorney. I get it.
Right.
But at the same point, I just want to know, hey, these are the things these are the tests that the doctors will be running on a regular basis once you go on this medicine, because they're looking for these things. Okay. And I don't care if it's 5 pages.
Right.
But 100 I can't.
Yeah, that's a bit much. Yeah. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to other people hearing from you and hearing your story, and being able to reach out to you or to us, and coming together in this group that we hope will be manageable, yet very informative, and be there for other parents like you.
Well, and thank you for bringing some of the people in whose children are now older.
Yes, that was important.
It was, because I have felt like I'm blazing this trail, and we aren't. I mean, and that's what I heard, I think, more in this conversation today is there are few, there's not very many, but there are parents that have been here before.
Yes.
And they are, I'm sure, willing to be a resource for us.
They will be.
And
they will be.
That's huge for me,
Yes.
because now I have somebody I can say, when your child went to middle school, how did you handle the nurses? How did you do this? And these little things that are so easy for me with my older son become so much more of a bigger conversation than about my younger son. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So all I'm going to do is ask you about 3 questions.
Okay.
And one will be, when was the first time you heard about an MPN? And it's your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you, how old is your daughter? And you don't have to use her name. And we're going to edit out Sarah's son's name, by the way. What, in brief, what you did after that.
And you're looking at Anne the entire time?
Yeah, don't look
Okay,
at that.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that.
I'll
Did you
cross
want...
my eyes pretty soon, but okay. I'll make you laugh.
Okay, please.
Manoj, thank you very much for coming to our first annual Pediatric and Young Adult MPN program, and thank you for allowing me to interview you for a few moments. So, Manoj, your daughter has an MPN.
Yeah.
How old is she, and when was she diagnosed?
She's 16 years old, a junior in high school. She was diagnosed, I want to say, about 2 years ago, I believe, 1.5 years, 2 years ago. She was about 15, around that age, I believe.
And diagnosed with?
She was diagnosed with essential thrombocythemia.
Okay. And what did you do after that? What was the first thing you did after that?
I am an engineer by trade, graduate school from that, and so my tendency is to go research, and so I cope by learning as much as I can.
Sure.
So I tried to learn as much as I could about what ET was about, and then discovered the name MPN from that. I used Google Scholar to find folks who had written papers touching anything near that, and I emailed all the authors and their emails, if I could find them, to ask them questions about what this is and how I can learn more about it, because I couldn't find public information that would teach it to me in an easy way.
Sure.
Even though there's some sites that have it as a high level, it wasn't very satisfying to read high level descriptions of a serious disease.
Okay. And so, were you happy with your hematologist in your community? Did you feel like you were getting the advice and treatment that you needed as a parent with a young child with this disease?
That's a great question. We were very fortunate. We live in Albuquerque, and University of New Mexico has, I guess, a nationally recognized pediatric program. And so Dr. Winter,
that's okay.
Yeah, was our first pediatric hematologist, and he immediately took on the situation, admitted what he did not know. And so we were, to answer your question, I guess short sentences would be, we were very happy because he put us at ease. And he reached out to the community, even some of the folks that I had reached out to already. So I knew that he was reaching out, and he started attending some of these conferences to learn more about it.
Good.
And so he seemed to quickly get on top of the situation for my daughter.
That is fantastic.
And so we were very fortunate, by the way. I don't know if that's the norm. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. However, I mean, you're making a very good point, and one that was made in the session today, and that is you know, there has to be a sense of humility with the physician
Yes.
who will be open to learning more and open to attending a conference and really communicating with other physicians that might be able to help them navigate through treatment options and so on.
Yes.
So I'm so glad to hear you're happy with your hematologist. That's a plus.
Yes.
So how is your daughter doing?
She's doing, I would say, very well. She didn't really show a lot of symptoms of the disease. So when we first took her in, it was related to her having. With her stomach, like being nauseated when she did strenuous exercise. I believe, in hindsight, after talking to some specialists like Dr. Mesa, he stated that can actually occur with folks with ET. And so they did some blood work related to that, and that's when they found it. But in general, she's healthy, but even before that, she's had cases of headaches and migraines, which we never related to this.
Sure.
But we were managing that pain at that point with yoga and meditation and all. They have a great program at UNM where they try to teach various ways to deal with, manage with the stress and pain associated with her headaches and things. And so because of that, I think she's doing very well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What medication, if any, is she taking?
She was started off on hydroxyurea, and it was about 1,000 milligrams, which is, I can't remember what that is, per kilogram kind of thing for her. And that ended up reducing her platelet count a lot. And then interferon was added to it with the hopes of reducing the hydroxyurea, which I think just this week her current hematologist said, let's take her off.
Okay, great.
And so interferon and hydroxyurea to this point, and I think from here on out, it's going to be interferon only, the pegylated interferon.
As a parent, what wisdom would you impart to other parents out there that are just hearing the news that their child has an MPN, or a parent that is really at a loss and is just going through the system and going through whatever they're being told to do? What 3 things would you say to that parent and to those parents? Okay,
that's a great question. I guess the first thing I would say is knowledge is empowerment. I think the more you can learn, the better you'll have a handle on the situation. The second thing I would say related to that, though, is there's a lot of, you have to parse through a lot of knowledge. And with this kind of disease, there's a lot of information out there not meant for your eyes because it doesn't apply to your children's situation. It's meant for older folks. And sometimes parsing that technical data, I think, extremely challenging. And so you gotta be careful of basically all the information. And I guess the point being for both of those is I think you have to take on the role of being the advocate for your kid, for your child. It's always, I have to admit, early on I was always looking for someone to take that from me and rely on that person so the stress levels would be reduced for me. But I did manage to deal with my stress and still keep that role. I think that's critical. And finding support. I think now, with what you guys have set up, I think there's more easily findable, discoverable communication and support. I would take advantage of that. I would reach out to folks who've had it, the parents, attend this. This was wonderful, by the way.
Thank you very much.
It made me feel a lot better about hearing what's going on over there. It's a great support mechanism. So kind of in those 3 things, probably.
We do a lot of outreach with hematologists, and we have that new little booklet for pediatric MPN docs to give out to their patients and parents. But we also want to really start a solid, formal network. And so it's totally optional, and we hope to make that a very private, with the consultation of hematologists that specialize with pediatric MPN and young adults. Would you rate that as something very important in the grander scheme of things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I think the work I've done personally in the last several years, where you hear that your child's the only one with the issue, and there's not a lot of literature on children having this disease, and in the data that it's taken me that long to obtain, now I think for folks, if they can get that information in a shorter period of time, I think that's wonderful. Finding the support community, finding connections to folks who specialize in it. I think making that easier, accessible for everyone, I think is great. That's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm really very grateful to you for doing this.
Oh, no problem. I like trying to, I think this is awesome. I can't even put it into words. I'm just sitting there going, wow, this is, and I've heard great things about you, and then how much interest and passion and heart you have in this area, and you don't even have relatives that have this. So, I mean, that's a special person that'll do that. So appreciate it, and it comes through. You can tell.
Oh, I love these people.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I can tell you that where I work, I told my husband, don't die, because if you die, I'm under the poverty line. I said, well, the good thing is that my son goes to college for free.
You can come and live with me, Sylvia.
I swear. I mean, I tell my husband, we didn't have a great insurance into all of this happen, and I went to just get. I love what I do, but payment is like a joke.
What do you do?
I'm an assistant for the ECS kids, which is the special needs kids.
Okay.
And I love it because even though my daughter is not a special needs, they do have a special needs.
Okay, yes.
And it's just one of those things that people think these kids cannot function, cannot. And so it kind of relates to me, to my daughter.
Sure.
Like, are you sure you're sick? Are you sure your daughter has something? She looks fine. So it just kind of really, it's the opposite side, but it just kind of the same.
Yes, yes.
And I told my husband, I said, well, we had to do something. So I'm doing that because it gives me time to run. I don't have the same responsibilities. I don't have, so anytime she's sick, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. My time has been consumed on her.
Okay.
But
so let me. Oh yeah, your
but
badge.
I don't.
And we don't use names, like
Okay.
you do. And I'm going to say though, I'm asking you this in English, and thank you for responding in Spanish.
Okay.
Because we are the population of Spanish or Spanish-speaking countries, and and children with an MPN and adults. We are hopeful that they will see this and understand that there is help. Okay. I should have just said that. I'll say that over again. Okay. Sylvia, thank you so much for being with me after this program, our first MPN program for young adults and pediatric age children. I am very grateful to you for being able to answer my questions in Spanish, as we have a growing population of children with MPNs who are from Spanish-speaking countries and young adults. So thank you. Gracias.
De nada.
Sylvia, when you phoned me and told me that your daughter had essential thrombocythemia, she was 8?
Sí, tenía 8 años.
Sí. What did you do from the moment that she was diagnosed that you believe made a difference in the outcome of her treatment and her care?
Lo primero que hicimos fue informarnos. Hice mucha investigación, leí mucho qué era essential thrombocythemia, qué era lo que ella estaba pasando, porque yo no entendía ningún término médico, no entendía por qué mi hija tenía que tomar medicina que tenía quimioterapia, porque si ella no tenía ningún síntoma, teníamos que darle medicina para algo que ella no sentía. Entonces, cuando nos presentaron, cuando el doctor, el hematólogo nos presentó la situación, tuvimos que comenzar a leer, investigar qué era essential thrombocythemia, qué eran las plaquetas, qué era tener plaquetas altas, por qué mi hija no tenía ningún síntoma. Fue muy difícil porque cada vez que íbamos a investigar en el internet no había nada de información, nunca había información. Por eso fue que te contactamos a ti. Cuando te contacté fue porque encontramos un seminario, unas conferencias para adultos, no para niños. Y fue cuando nos referimos a ti porque necesitábamos aprender más, necesitábamos saber qué era esto que nadie sabía. Nuestro hematólogo no tenía respuestas, no sabía por qué ella tenía esta condición, qué era lo que causaba la condición, por qué ella tenía que tomar esta medicina. Entonces, sin ninguna respuesta, tuvimos que hacer nuestra propia investigación.
So, because she was so young, and it was terribly difficult to find information and someone that knew how to treat a young child, once you found that hematologist, and she spoke at our event today, I also feel as though what you presented today, earlier, was so important when you said it is the whole family. Number one, you talked about that. Number two, you talked about you treat your daughter like she is well unless something comes up. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Cuando nosotros empezamos a ir con Dr. Cuisine, nosotros buscábamos más información, porque como madre es muy difícil saber cuándo tengo que dejar a mi hija hacer algo y cuándo no. Es una enfermedad que afecta a toda la familia, afecta el tiempo, afecta las finanzas, afecta todo lo que hacemos. Y yo tengo otro hijo. El tiempo que yo le empecé a dedicar a él no era el mismo que le dedicaba antes. Las atenciones que mi hija tiene que tener no son las mismas que él tiene que tener. Entonces, lo que hicimos fue envolver a toda la familia. No solo educar a mi esposo y a mí, pero educarnos a todos como familia. Porque esto es algo que afecta a toda la familia, afecta actividades. Mis dos hijos corren cross country.
Sí.
Por lo tanto, si mi hija iba corriendo y se enfermaba, tenía que sacarla. Ella se salía de la carrera, pero entonces mi hijo iba a empezar a correr, pero mi hijo tenía que venir con nosotros porque teníamos que ir al hospital. Es algo que afecta las actividades, afecta qué haces, cómo lo haces, la comida, cómo tienes que cocinar ahora, qué vas a tomar. Por eso fue que empezamos a envolver a mi hijo también. Y toda la familia nos educamos acerca de la situación. Toda la familia empezamos a ver qué podíamos hacer. Incluso cuando vamos a visitar a Dr. Cuisine, mi hijo viene con nosotros. Porque es importante que él sepa por qué hacemos cosas diferentes. Una vez que empezamos a ir con Dr. Cuisine, fue como abrir un camino para nosotros. Empezamos a tener respuestas. Todos los términos médicos comenzaron a ser diferentes para nosotros. Ella nos empezó a hablar en términos que podíamos entender. Para nosotros no fuimos a la escuela de medicina. Todos los términos, todos los estudios, todos los términos que tienen los estudios son muy diferentes cuando no has ido a la escuela de medicina. Entonces, la manera que Dr. Cuisine nos presentó toda la información hizo sentido para nosotros. Podíamos entenderlo, qué era lo que mi hija tenía. Ahora, mi hija no tenía ningún síntoma. Y por eso era importante para nosotros que toda la familia se informara, que toda la familia aprendiera, porque toda nuestra dinámica cambió. Ella empezó a tomar medicina. Teníamos que observarla, incluso ahora tenemos que observarla. Cualquier cambio, cualquier dolor de cabeza, si el dolor de cabeza es un poco diferente, tenemos que asegurarnos que no es de su condición que tiene, pero que sea algo normal. Entonces empezamos a aprender todo y mi hijo también empezó a aprender que en ocasiones como familia te tienes que sacrificar para ayudar a otro.
Sí. I do understand some Spanish, and that was very well said. So going forward, because you seem to really have a wonderful handle on this at this point, Going forward, what do you hope to see happen in the MPN community for young children and young adults? And then what wisdom would you impart to other parents?
Lo que a mí me gustaría es que tuvieran la información que yo no tuve. Que cuando tú vas con el hematólogo pueda hablar con otro especialista, en vez de decirte tu hija tiene que tomar esta medicina o tu hijo tiene que tomar y no hay respuesta. Que ellos tengan la información en sus manos de decir, ok, esto es lo que pasa. Realmente lo que está pasando es que en tus células algo se está desarrollando mal, en vez de decir términos médicos que no voy a entender a este momento. Me gustaría ver que hay una medicina, porque ahorita mi hija está tomando medicina para el sickle cell, que es medicina completamente diferente de lo que ella tiene. Pero me gustaría que tuviera una medicina para nada más lo que ella tiene. Me gustaría ver que las familias tuvieran un grupo a que ellos pudieran llamar o decir necesito información, pero que los mismos hematólogos te dieran la comunicación que necesitas, que ellos te pusieran en el camino a decir, ok, tenemos este grupo. ¿Por qué no, si necesitas ayuda, hay otros padres de familia? Porque es tan raro que te puedo decir de dónde vivimos, mi hija es la única. Entonces, para estar en contacto con otras familias, no sabes a quién hablar, no sabes dónde viven, pero que hubiera un grupo que dijera, ok, puedes contactar a alguien que sabe lo que está pasando, que sabe cómo tu vida está cambiando, que te puede ayudar y decir, hey, a lo mejor en vez de hacer 2, 3 pasos, puedes hacer 1. Pero es el apoyo, es el descubrir una nueva manera de tratar esta situación, pero sobre todo es la educación. Tener la educación a las manos.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much.
No, gracias por todo.
Gracias.
3 or 4 times. Okay.
Tell me when.
Okay, you're looking at camera. Remember, you'll turn at the end and look at the
Yes.
Okay, I'm rolling.
Hi, my name is Ann Brazo. I'm the founder and CEO of MPN Advocacy and Education International. We just hosted our very first pediatric and young adult MPN educational program in Chicago, Illinois. And although we had some parents and patients speak, we thought it would be best for all of us if we interviewed some of those parents and got more information from them to impart to all of you out there that are just hearing about a diagnosis of a child, or you are a young adult that has questions. And so we will begin our interviews now.
The end was the only bad part. Everything else was good. I think your transition is you just turn and say thank you for being here.
Yes, okay, that's a good idea. Thank you for being here. All right, one more time.
Try it again, a little more succinct, perhaps.
Okay, okay.
Rolling.
Hi, my name is Ann Brazo. I'm the CEO of MPN Advocacy and Education International. We just hosted our very first pediatric and young adult MPN program in Chicago, Illinois. And although we had some parents and young adults speak at this event, we thought it would be very advantageous to those of you out there who just recently had a child diagnosed with an MPN, or you are a young adult who was just diagnosed with an MPN. And so we are going to interview some of those parents that were here today. Thank you for being with us today.
You're looking really low. They're only 2 feet tall. You look down.
Okay, shoot. Can we just start from there? All right, never mind. I thought the rest of that was good.
You're here.
All right.
Otherwise, they're only 2 feet tall. They're very small. If you have another one in you, let's go for it. If not, we'll just...
Let's try one more.
We'll make it easier and editing. Okay, rolling. That was perfect what you said, though. Okay, rolling.
Hi, my name is Ann Brazo. I'm the CEO and founder of MPN Advocacy and Education International. Today we hosted our very first pediatric and young adult MPN program. We had many patients and parents. See, I screwed it up. Let me start over. Hi, my name is Ann Brazo. I'm the founder and CEO of MPN Advocacy and Education International. Today we hosted our very first pediatric and young adult MPN program in Chicago, Illinois. Although we had some parents and patients speak today, we also wanted to give more information out to those parents of children. Why does that happen?
I think we.
I don't have a script and I keep changing it. All right, let me do one more and then I'm done. And we'll just go back to that other one.
Yeah, we'll just use that.
Hi, my name is Ann Brazo. I'm the CEO and founder of MPN Advocacy and Education International. Today we hosted our very first pediatric and young adult MPN educational program in Chicago, Illinois. It was great. It was great for so many reasons. We did have some parents speak and tell their stories about the issues and challenges they faced when their son or daughter was diagnosed with an MPN. And I thought it would be very important to interview some of those parents today to impart some wisdom to other MPN patients who are young adults and to the families and caregivers and parents of those people.
All you do is exit. All you do is exit.
Oh my God, this is killing me. Let's go back to that other one.
Okay, Lisa, I do need you looking there for like 10 seconds.
I'm going to look up.
And you're going to nod a little bit. Like, no, you're looking too low.
Oh, I still
They're
on?
taller. There they
Okay.
are. Right? There's some blah, 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 blah. It's been great. You guys are terrific. It's been a good experience. Thanks for having me here. I'm thankful for this information.